It may seem like a simple snack, but midwives have used it for centuries. And now science is finally catching up. Your hormones, skin, and digestion, they're all connected. And this one plant can help support all. From ancient midwives to modern day sciences, raspberry is a holistic hero that you didn't know you needed. In this video, we're gonna break all of that down, and we're gonna first do a little overview of raspberry in general, what it looks like, and then we'll explore more into each part of the plant. So that means we're gonna start with the quick overview of what is raspberry. So I think you would know what raspberries are, but you might not know the technical terminologies and the classifications of raspberries. So let's just go over that super quick. So raspberry is a perennial deciduous fruit, but the canes or branches are actually biennial. It's also part of the Rosaceae family, 3 main varieties and 2 subspecies, and they're actually technically invasive because you might plant raspberries and they can get out of control. The feelings and tastes of raspberry can be astringent, aromatic, bitter, cooling, sharp, sour, and sweet. It has really good vitamins like vitamin C. It contains vitamin K. It also contains the B vitamins. It contains a lot of essential trace minerals such as copper, magnesium, iron, zinc, potassium, and it does have a tiny little amount of selenium. So this, you wouldn't think about it, but there's all of these beautiful vitamins and minerals all within this tiny little brambly fruit. And the main supportive compounds are anthocyanins, flavonoids, ketones, and tannins. So before we get into the actions and energetics, let's do a brief history overview as well. All of the resources that I'm pulling this information from, I'll share below. I just want to state that I am not a medical professional. I am just a nerdy, researchy girl that likes to go over things very intently. I'm just gonna directly read from this website that I found some really interesting history about raspberry on here. For centuries, Native Americans and Old World counterparts have used raspberry leaf teas and extracts to treat pregnancy-related problems. So the Chippewa and Omaha used the roots to treat bowel problems like dysentery and diarrhea. The Appalachia used the roots of various species to make a tea that was used for hemorrhaging and hemophilia. When taken every 3 hours, it was also used for summer sickness and diarrhea. Bee stings were relieved by rubbing a leaf on the area. And then in 1830, Constantine Rafinesque, I'm not sure what his name is, reported that there are nearly 30 wild species that are used to treat cholera. The Cherokee chewed on them for cough. Then 19th century physicians also used the roots for the same purposes. So the fruit of the red raspberry was officially listed in the U.S. Pharmacopoeia from 1882 to 1905 and the National Formulary from 1916 to 1942. The juice was listed in the National Formulary from 1942 to 1950, and it's been listed in the U.S. Pharmacopoeia since 1950. So it is used in the preparation of raspberry syrup, which has been an aid to disguise the unpleasant smell and taste of medicines. In 1735, the Irish herbalist Keogh using the flowers and honey for eye inflammations, which that is mentioned in historical and traditional uses, that you can make different eye washes for styes, and it's been used for different eye treatments. Gerard considered the fruits to be a temperate heat and therefore easier on the stomach than strawberries, which could cause excessive phlegm and chilling. So that's something to consider. So let's start looking at each part of the plant red raspberry, or there's actually even black raspberries, not to be confused with blackberries. The fruit first, and this is very nutritional and medicinal. The fruit is very high in anthocyanins, which is an antioxidant, and we kind of talked about antioxidants in my allergy video and in my other videos. The fruit also contains ellagic acid, which is anti-inflammatory, contains really good fiber, which is good for gut health, and glucose control, which I'm hoping that I've drilled in your brain, gut health is super important. The fruit is so powerful and also very delicious. They're considered to be diuretic, diaphoretic, cleansing, and a laxative. And as I said, it contains vitamin A, but it also has vitamin B, C, E. It has sugars, minerals, and volatile oils. You might consider making a berry brain boosting smoothie or smoothie bowl with some red, yellow, or black raspberries, blackberries, red currants, maybe a little bit of vinegar in there. Try and get probiotic or live cultured yogurt, some ground flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, and perhaps a banana in there. You can mess around with those ingredients. I'm pulling this from this book. It's called Nourish Your Brain Cookbook, and I do reference this for just some recipe ideas, but I really enjoy the educational information that's included in this book. So if you're curious about eating for brain health specifically, or in general, because we're not just eating for brain health, because for your brain to be healthy, your body needs to be healthy too. So I just like this book if you're curious at all. That would be a recipe for you to try with red raspberry fruits. So let's start talking about the leaves, which is the herbal secret weapon. So although there are limited high quality randomized controlled trials to support these kinds of claims, there's promising anecdotal and early evidence to support them. Key benefits in the leaves are supporting menstrual pain and labor. It's also a digestive aid. It's used in kind of the same sense for women as it can be for men. So maybe for women it's used for supporting their menstruation, supporting different digestive, and maybe have some constipation, or maybe the opposite and it's not constipation. So perhaps that's what you're also dealing with as a male. Raspberry can be utilized for the same thing in males. Good for toning pelvic muscles because it contains a compound fragrin. So it can be supportive of pregnancy because of toning and preparing women for birth. Use some dried raspberry leaves, mint, lemon balm, and steep and chill it, and you can sweeten with some honey to make a delicious iced tea that you can enjoy in the summer while also supporting your hormone health. Even though the leaves are kind of the big bad boy in the herbal world, I want to talk about the seeds and the stems as well. So let's start talking about seeds and seed oil. If you're familiar with the DIY and herbal skincare world, you might have seen that there's raspberry leaf seed oil out there available for you to introduce into your salves and serums and lotions. These seeds and seed oil is rich in omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. It also contains vitamin E and allergic acid, which we talked about, and that's just really beneficial for skin, and it's great for anti-inflammation. And it has UV protective properties. So some people might mix in some raspberry seed oil into a homemade SPF. Stems or canes, there's definitely potential for future research because it's not very well researched, but within folk medicine said that there's decoctions and it's really effective for the mild astringent effects, and it's great for oral health. Again, not really researched, but there's potential for future research, so you could definitely look into it, and if that's something you're interested in, perhaps you are going to feed into that potential. Wow, isn't raspberry just so magical? Before we end this video with some other recipes for you to try, I do want to just first cover some safety and usage information before you go buck wild on these beautiful recipes. It's best not to use in early pregnancies due to the uterine stimulating effects. So if you are suspecting that you might be pregnant, or if you are just starting out your pregnancy, I would hold off on trying to utilize this hormone balancing fruit. And it's also really important to source ethically and organically. Try and avoid pesticides. Do not pull raspberries that you see from the side of the road in a ditch next to a big agriculture factory. That's probably not going to be great for supporting your hormones. consider dosages and preparations still matters. Even though there's not any contraindications or cautions noted really with raspberry other than the one I mentioned, it's still important to be careful about your safety and dosage because variety is so important in our diets. So the common recommended preparations and dosage is you can have fresh or dried leaf, and you can make a tea having like 2 teaspoons of like the plant matter or the powder, having it 1 to 2 times a day with a cup of boiling water. With a tincture, you could do 2 to 4 milliliters and having that one time a day. And then there's a tea you can consider making or trying out if you do have heavy periods. You can consider having 15 grams of raspberry leaf, 15 grams of lady's mantle, and 20 grams of nettles, taking it 1 to 3 times daily for heavy periods. So those are some of the recommended preps and dosages, and as I said, there's no interactions or contraindication noted or known, but that's not to say that there isn't any out there. What do practitioners say? Well, it's said that the last 5 months of pregnancy, it's super supportive and it can really help support in childbirth. So it's also great for heavy periods and some endometriosis symptoms. It's considered a uterine tonic and nutritive, which we kind of talked about a little bit. It can be utilized for eye conjunctivitis or wounds and burns. It's said that it can be utilized for different wounds and certain burns. And then for mouth and throat inflammation. So overall, it's great for the skin and for reproductive health. That is what it's mainly utilized for. And then of course, the different plant parts have certain properties that might be more helpful for these different ailments and issues, but that's what the main usage of raspberry has been noted as. Before we bid goodbye, let's just cover those recipe ideas so that you can introduce raspberry into your diet. So consider making a brain boosting smoothie or even a delicious iced tea for balancing hormones, or even a special salve to support your skin. You can try lots of different recipes with raspberries, such as wine, vinegar, brandy, and eye wash, and we now can see that raspberry is not just a fruit. This is your sign to sip some raspberry tea.